Hey guys, alright, so what we're going to do, I'm going to pick up where we left off with last time. We're going to be talking about some more HTML coding. Normally everything we do in this class is going to be done in Notepad, but for the sake of these demos, I'm actually going to use a website over here. It's off of the w3schools.com, and it's called Try It, or Try It Editor. You can do a quick Google search for it, and what's kind of nice is I can type over here, submit it, and it will display it directly over here, so I can kind of see them side by side. Something you may want to do while we're in class learning the code. So where we left off last time, we talked about how we start and end our document with HTML. There's a header, there's the body, and then we also talked about adding in text and how to alter that text along the way. For example, by bolding font, just like so. We also talked about how we can go through and italicize. And we also talked about how we can underline. This is all stuff we talked about already. We talked about what an H is, and an H, of course, is a header. Makes the text really nice and bold, adds an enter to it. It does some pretty cool stuff. There you go. We also talked about some other different avenues that you can kind of take your stuff, your text, your coding. For the sake of argument today, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of sidestep a little bit. We're going to talk about adding pictures. We're going to talk about changing the color of your text. Okay? So, first things first, I'm just going to get rid of all these little adjuncts on top of here because I want to make it as smooth and nice as I can for you. There we go. So, back down to just regular old text saying hello. Now, what I want to do is I want to affect the font in some way. So I'm going to have to add in the code font in order to change, my font, right? But I need, just like every good coding, I need to end that font as well, because if I don't end the font, then things are not going to be so good. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start going through and I'm going to add some little tiny attributes inside of this font code. So we're talking about the font, we're telling the computer, hey, everything from henceforth is going to be dealing with the font. So what do I want to change about the font? Well, maybe I want to change the size of the font. And just like a mathematical equation, size is equal to, and then I add these little quotation marks. You don't have to, but it's good coding. Add those little quotes there, and then I add in an actual number. So maybe I want my hello to be really powerful and big, so I'm going to type in 10. I'm going to go ahead and hit submit, or if you're working in Notepad, you would do save, and then display your website. And there it is, large and in charge, ready to go. So that's some basic way you can adjust the text of a document. Now, what else can I do? Well, I can also change the color of my text, obviously. So I would do color equals, again, you don't have to do the quotes, but it's kind of good coding to do. We'll do the quotes, and then inside the color, I'm just going to type the word green and see what happens. And there it is. Now I've got my favorite color on my favorite word in my favorite size, maybe? 10 could be a good size. All right, so I've got everything. It looks great. It looks much nicer than when we left off last time, but at the same time, let's be fair, it's still pretty boring. Well, maybe that green is kind of boring. Maybe I want to really pick and choose because there's a lot of colors that can be displayed in a computer and on a web design. So I'm going to go over to a website, for example, like WebMonkey. If you go to webmonkey.com and you look around, you can find their color chart. And here you'll see all of the colors under the Tuscan sun. I mean, there's a lot of colors. A lot. So let's say my favorite color, wow, that's totally it. I want that weird lime green. So I'm going to copy that. Oops. Go over here. I'm going to replace the color green with that. Now notice I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got all of my numbers nice and good to go. In web coding, we call this a hexadecimal code or a hex code. What a hex code basically is each one of these little digits shifts the computer slightly over until I get the exact color that I want. And there it is, nice weird lime green. Now, what's cool about having this hex code is that I can go through and I can start to use it in the actual design of my web page. So as I'm going through, if I want the background to be the same color as the font, and then I put like another background color in there to kind of offset the font, I can have a border around my picture that's the same color. I can make sure that that color is exactly the same. It's not going to be like whenever you go to Lowe's and they have to mix up the paint and kind of eyeball it and guesstimate. This is totally automated. It's absolutely computer driven. So it makes things pretty smooth and easy for you. Now, some other ideas. What happens if I have my text but I want to adjust it? So say like you're using Microsoft Word and I want to adjust it from the right side to the center or to the left, or I can justify that text by spreading it out. Well, I need to affect the text itself, but I need to put that text inside of something. So loosely, last time we talked about this little P, and that P stands for a paragraph. So I'm going to add a paragraph and I'm going to close my paragraph at the end of my font here. So in essence, everything right inside of that P, everything inside of that little matrices is connected to this paragraph. And so I'm going to alter the paragraph by telling it to align, and I want it to align in a certain direction, so to the right, to the left, or to the center. So I'm going to say, for the sake of argument for me, I'm going to say that I want this to align maybe to the right. And it looks like that. So you can see it shoved it over. I can also align it to the center, like so. So if you want to center something up real quick, paragraph is a good way to go. Another kind of poor man's way out, it's not great, but it will work. I'll delete out the paragraph for a second. If I want to just do a quick centering, I can do just literally code center and close center. And what that'll do is it'll actually take care of the same exact code. Nothing really changed. But that's kind of a quicker, cheaper way of going. It'll work, but the problem is it won't really affect if you want to go to the right or to the left. It just does a quick center. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is adding in a picture. So I'm going to enter down here a little bit. If I want to add an image, any picture, right, I can just type in an IMG. That's the shortening of image, obviously, and that's going to be the tag, that links the code of the computer to let it know that I want to display a image. So now that I'm displaying this image, I need to tell it what the source of this image is. So src is going to represent source, and just like with size and just like with color, I need to do equals, cute little parentheses there, and now I'm going to tell it the name of my image. Now, if I've got an image saved elsewhere, say in a folder somewhere, and that name of that image is, hello, I have to make sure to add in .jpeg or .png or whatever else, .gif, .bitmap, any of that. But you have to add that little bit of a tag on the end so the computer knows exactly which file you're talking about. Sometimes your file might not be in the same folder as your actual code. So you might want to say, maybe from my code, I put it into an images folder. I do a little slash, and that tells the computer from the base menu or wherever the website's located, in that menu, in that folder, there's another folder called images. So open that up, and now when you're inside that folder, look for hello JPEG. Now, in our case, because I'm typing this stuff on the internet, it doesn't know what hello JPEG is, so it's going to come up with this broken sign, and that doesn't help us. But what I can do is I can go searching a little bit and I can find a cool picture. So I'm just going to jump on Google real quick and look up puppies. Why not? So I'm going to look up some pictures of puppies. Here we go. And here's an adorable puppy. Look at that. I'm going to copy the URL just like that. Jump back in here. And I'm going to place that URL right in where my source goes. So I'm telling the computer I want an image. Its source or location is at this URL, and that will bring up my puppy. And there he is. So it's kind of like a link to the images of another web page. Kind of cool. Saves on space and stuff. Now, what I can also do is I can play around a little bit. I can affect, again, not just the source of the image, but also the aspects of the image. So maybe I want this image to have a different width. It kind of goes off the page right now. I want it to be a little bit smaller. So I'll say the width is going to be 50, really tiny. Now when I say 50, what I'm talking about is pixels. Now you guys have already worked with GIMP, so you know 50 pixels is pretty small, super small, right? There it is. I can enlarge it. Maybe I want it to be a little bit bigger, so I want it to be 350, a little bit bigger. You get the idea, right? So I'll shrink it down. There he goes. Now what's neat is I can kind of combine different aspects. So I know how to color the font. Well, I can also color my background. So I can go to the body of the code because I'm affecting the body of the website. And I add in BG color. What that stands for is background color. That's just the code. Equals, again, cute little parentheses. And I'm going to say it equals blue. Why not? There it is. Now my background is transformed magically into a blue background. And again, I could also plug in a hexadecimal code in place of just the word blue if I wanted to. I can also go through and add an image for my background, and it'll be a repeating image. To do that, instead of BG color, we get rid of that. I'm going to type the word background, and that equals, and this time again, parentheses, I'm going to add in that same image, that puppy dog image. Again, there's the URL. It's a lot of code. It looks kind of impressive there, but it's nothing fancy. End my parentheses. So again, just to break through, this is within the body. The code is background equals, and then I'm just adding the URL, that www, for the JPEG. That's it. Submit. And there it is. Now I've got my background as a puppy, and there's my image as a puppy. Not really good layout, but again, the concept is still there, right? Not awesome. So next step, now I can change the font of my color, I can change the size of my font, I can do a whole bunch of different things. I can affect the size of my image, I can put the image as the background. Maybe I want this image to be in the center. Well, I already know how. I can do the easy way out. Cool. Or maybe I want it on the right-hand side. Again, can't do the easy way out for this one. So I have to make a P, a paragraph. I have to align that paragraph to, in this case, the right, and close that P off. Okay? So I've opened a paragraph, aligned it to the right, closed that paragraph. So again, anything within these brackets is going to be aligned to the right, and it's going to look like that. You can see it moved, right? Pretty basic stuff, but again, now all of a sudden you have this whole can of worms where you can start really inviting and bringing in images. And let's say, for example, I wanted to have a whole slew of these images. So I'm going to copy my paragraph. I want a line break. We know what that looks like. It's a BR. That would give me that little line. Maybe I want to use some stuff we learned last time, like HR, which stands for horizontal rule. It's that line that goes right across. Then I want another BR. Whoa. I know you're excited. Calm down. Calm down. And then finally, paste. Oh my God, too much. If I hit submit, whoa. Now I've got my text, I've got my cool background, I've got my picture, I've got my horizontal rule, and another picture. But you know what? I want this picture, I want it aligned on the other side. So I'm going to do align left. Awesome. So now I've got this cool look. Again, what are you going to do with this right now? Not a whole lot, but it's going to come in handy whenever we get to bigger and better, well-designed websites. And you're going to have that ability pretty soon. See you soon.